If you've watched The Last Kingdom, I bet you missed this tiny wee detail. I say teeny tiny wee detail, it's actually quite a big object, but you've probably missed it anyway, right? Spoiler warning ahead right now, kind of, for The Last Kingdom teleprogram and Seven Kings Must Die. I highly suggest you watch both of them. Just take it anyway. I didn't want anybody shouting at me in the comments, okay? Spoiler warning ahead. Season 5, we're introduced to King Constantine II at Stirling Castle, no less! But surprisingly, we don't care about King Constantine today. I care about what's behind him. I was watching this programme and I went, whoa, I need to rewind a wee bit. My eyes were drawn to his throne. Now, when I was watching this, I was in shock. I had to pause, rewind, and stand right in front of the telly and go, I ken that stone. Those cheeky wee set designers, cheeky set designers, have taken the Hilton of Cadball stone and turned it into a throne literally fit for a king. No one has mentioned it. I've been looking for weeks for like one wee person mentioning it on Twitter or in an article or something like that. Just somebody mentioning the fact that this stone has been taken and turned into a throne on the telly. No one has said a thing. And I won't lie, I'm late to the party watching this programme, so there's been plenty of time for somebody to notice and say something, but they've not took it. I mean, to be fair, the National Museum of Scotland's like my second home, so of course I'm going to recognise it where other people might not. Sorry to flex my very, very specific local knowledge, but it's the truth. I would recognise that stone anywhere. Anywhere. And you normal people, you just might not get it, okay? That's fine. I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in.
So now that I've lured you all in with Uhtred clickbait and lured you all in with thoughts of Uhtred, let's take a closer look at King Constantine's throne. Key. Throne. Quotation. The Hilton of Cadball stone was carved around 800 CE, and it was displayed near St Mary's Chapel, we believe, at Hilton of Cadball. Another great instance of archaeologists coming up with really creative names for the things that they find. And it was carved from local sandstone, for those who care about that. Around this time, around 800 CE, the north of Scotland was dominated by the Picts. We have Pictish people living in Scotland at this point. But although it was inhabited by Picts, this was also a time where Christianity was starting to sort of rear its head and become popularised upon the British Isles. And such stones were ways of commemorating and celebrating this new religion that had been found and popularised. This new religion! Shut up. At some point in its life, the stone toppled over and the bottom bit snapped off, unfortunately. But it has been found again. Don't worry. We've got the whole thing. It's fine. Calm down. And it lay face down until 1676, when a man called Alexander Duff found it. And he chipped away the back face that was facing the surface to carve upon it a commemorative inscription for him and his 3 wives. Huh? But he went through all the effort. I mean, I'm assuming he was maybe dead. I don't know. But the effort was put in to chip away the original face of the stone and put this inscription on it. But it lay in situ. They never even used it. They just left it there. You'd think they'd stand it back up, but they just left it lying. So then the stone lay in the same position until about the 1860s, at which time the MacLeods of Cadball came along and took the stone to Invergordon Castle to be used as a decoration. What a decoration, by the way. I'd love to have something like that in my house. I really would. And that's where it stayed until the MacLeods sold the castle in 1921. And you know where the stone ended up? The British Museum in Londinium.
That shit pisses me off a lot.
Tell you what though, the public were not having that. There was massive public outcry in Scotland. And you know what the British Museum did? They actually returned something for once. Who would have known? But it was returned in the same year to what is now the National Museum of Scotland. At the time it had a different name. Then in the 1990s, the new part of the National Museum opened. I've not known anything else. That's always been the museum for me because I wasn't born when that bit opened. Tee-hey. But that's the new bit of the building, not the old bit, where it now stands on display, very proud, in the early people's section down the stairs. I love that room. It's my favourite room in the entire museum. It's displayed in a way as well that means both sides are very well on show, which is excellent, because on one side you have this guy's weird inscription, and on the other side you have the Pictish imagery, which was protected because it was lying face down in the dirt, and this guy couldn't chip the face off, thank God. In 1998, Still before I was born, by the way. Just a year out. Oh, sorry, kicked the camera. A reconstruction was sculpted by a sculptor called Barry Grove, and this reconstruction stands where the original was sort of found, in the same area. On the reconstruction, they have reconstructed the back face as well as to what the original might have looked like. So not with the guy's commemorative inscription on it. The other side of this stone would most likely have a massive Christian cross on the other side of it. With Christianity being the growing popularised religion, the image of the cross was becoming a very common thing. Then in 2001, I was alive at this point, I would have been 2. The base of the stone was found, still in situ, plus 7,497 little teeny tiny pieces that had been chipped off when the back face was reworked for that guy, when Big Alex usurped it for his own gain. Don't even know if he's anyone of actual importance, he's just found a pre-cut slab of roughly rectangular stone and went, oh well, get that cross off it, I'll put my name on it and my 3 wives. Okay, do what you like, son, I guess. The stone is a perfect example, if you don't mind me saying, of the creativity, the symbolism and the detail that was put into these massive Pictish carvings. I'm going to break the stone down into top, middle and bottom sections just so I don't miss anything out because I will get confused. There's quite a lot going on here. Round the outside, there's vine scrolls that pretty much are like the border to the entire image, okay? And these vines have little grapes on them, some of them. And there's also some creatures inside nibbling on the grapes, and I think that's really cute. I think that's just really cute, to be honest. They're just eating away at the wee grapes and the vines. Vine scrolls were very popular in sort of Eastern Mediterranean art, and the vine scrolls were eventually, as most of the art has been, yoinked and twisted by Christianity to represent wine from the grapes and the blood of Christ in the Last Supper and all that Christian symbolism, which has been now newly applied. And that's a common theme with this stone and a lot of early Christian art. There's a lot of, I like to call it yoinking and twisting, because you're taking the original idea and putting a twist on it. You're yoinking it and twisting it to suit the new purpose. That's why I always say that. Yoinking the idea from somewhere else and putting your own twist on it. And that's essentially what's happened with a lot of different symbols on this stone, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Let's start with the top panel then, now that we've discussed the border. The top bit has been described as some sort of Pictish symbol assortment. There's some circular motifs in there, there's swords, there's zigzagging patterns, and triskelies. Triskelies can symbolise life, death, rebirth, because of the 3 spirals. In Christian art, it's been thought to symbolise the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit, or Alpha, Beta, Omega. Alpha, Beta, Omega. Sorry, I really tried to hold that Teen Wolf reference in this time. I swear, I really did. I tried not to let that one out. And the carvings upon this specific stone are some of the best preserved examples we have of such Pictish imagery. But we still don't really know what these symbols actually meant. Some scholars have suggested that they're part of a symbolic written language, sort of like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. But even if that is the case, we have no way of figuring out what the hell that means. No way. Now I'm going to jump down to the bottom panel, because I have to do this in a weird order for my own little brain's sake. We have some more spirals and some more triskelions, if you like to call them that. Only half of it is in the National Museum of Scotland. The original bottom of the stone, I believe, is in a museum near its find site. But the reconstructed metal base in which the stone currently stands, whoever's made it has continued the design onto the metal base, so you can kind of still get an idea of the full stone without the real base being there. No more Teen Wolf jokes. I mean, I can't promise anything, but I'm going to try, okay? The triskele is one of the few designs that has properly been carried over from Pictish pagan art into Christian art. There's a lot of different reasons why scholarship has said this. Again, it could be that they've yoinked and twisted the original meaning to fit their own new religious ideas, being the sort of 3 spirals representing the Holy Trinity, but also, like, it is just spirals. Like, there is examples of triskelions from across the globe in the ancient world, in sort of all forms of art. So, in terms of, like, religious imagery, not one religion can really, like, copyright a spiral, if you know what I mean. It can't just be held by one group, because everybody was sort of drawing it all over the globe at different times, because it's a pretty easy thing to draw. I've left the middle panel for the last because it is the most interesting and I've got the most to say about it, thank you very much. But this is not your average hunting scene that you would see carved in any form of the ancient world, to be honest. Because smack bang in the middle of it, we have a female horse rider. This one's for the girlies! Yes! If you look very closely at the image, there's actually a double line around the horse, which suggests that there's two people riding exactly side by side, but obviously we can only see the front lady. But she's sat sideways on her horse, and you can see her wee feet dangling down, her wee dainty feet, her wee dangly feet. I have my wee dainty feet, Eddie! My wee dangly feet! She was very clearly a woman of some importance, and we can tell that by the way she's dressed and the fact that she is smack bang in the centre of the image. It was very hard for me to get an image of this because the stone is absolutely massive and my camera can only zoom in so far. But there's very, very fine details in her clothing and in her hair. She's wearing a large brooch as well. Such fine brooches are associated with the Pictish elite. There is some amazing examples of these brooches out there, including the Hunterston brooch, which is also in the National Museum, literally like across the hallway. Very, very flash Harry stuff though. Up to the left of where she is sat, there is a mirror and a comb, or what's thought to be a mirror and a comb carved onto the block. Traditionally, these items are seen as more feminine items and they're supposed to indicate a female. Right. Nowadays, scholarship is trying to sort of tackle these ideas of what the traditional old white men thought were like, oh, this skeleton was buried with a mirror, so it must be a woman. And now they're like, actually, no, we got that quite wrong, boys. There's a lot of instances of that. I'll go into that in separate videos. But traditionally, if you see a comb in a mirror, that apparently means it's a woman. There's challenges to these sort of modern ideals being pushed back onto ancient people, especially when we can't be sure of the gender of the people that we're looking at, whether they're carved in stone or there's skeletal evidence. Another video for another time. Let me focus on our wee stone today, please. But basically, feminine items to us do not necessarily equate to feminine items in antiquity. But she must have been a very important woman who probably commissioned this monument for herself, or maybe one of her family members did. Certainly someone who folk would recognise or think about when they saw this monument. Her importance is further sort of consolidated by the lesser detailed other characters all around her. The other riders who look like they're sort of male characters, just less detailed, they're smaller, they're not smack bang in the centre of the image. There's also two trumpeteers behind her, egging her on, which is great. And no girl boss can successfully girl boss without her four-legged friends. She's got her hunting dogs all around her. I think she's got 3 hunting dogs. 2 of them are taking down a deer, which is quite sad, but she's got her little companions with her. That's so cute. This image of the huntress can be, I call her the huntress. It's a hunting scene and she's a lady. She's a huntress. Okay, to me, just now it's easier. This imagery of the huntress can be interpreted in plentiful ways. Face value, it could portray the lifestyle of the rich and the famous in Pictish times. The sort of hobbies and things that they would get up to, or how they would maybe make their living through hunting. I don't know, I wasn't there. And then there's also the sort of deeper Christian meaning, because there always is one, isn't there? The hunt could represent the conversion of the people from paganism to Christianity and the salvation of said people. And the deer could represent pagan gods, or Pictish people that, sorry, itchy nose, that put me off there, or Pictish people that refuse to convert. I think that's very, not quite far-fetched, but like, I don't get it. You know, I don't look at that and go, that is the salvation of the pagan people converting to Christ. I don't see that personally. But hey ho, I've not got a PhD and I haven't took a microscope to this image and fully understand every single teeny tiny detail. What I think it is, personally, the merging of 2 different religious styles of art in a time where the 2 were overlapping and one was eventually going to succeed the other. As these religious trends change, the art sort of overlaps and merges together a little bit before the next religion can take its place. If you've seen my other video about Uhtred of Edinburgh, if you've not seen it, I suggest you go watch it, because why wouldn't you? I mentioned the Edinburgh gravesite. This is an example that does tie in, by the way. I'm not just talking about Uhtred for no reason. In this gravesite outside Edinburgh, to put a long story short, archaeologists found a bunch of rich people buried in 2 very different styles. The main difference being that some of the bodies were found in very Christian positions, lying flat out on their backs, while some were in the more traditional pagan style, on their side, curled up in a wee ball. I'd like to do a full video on that gravesite still, and the bodies found within it, at some point. Maybe when I can get down to actually visit them, that'd be cool. But I just wanted to bring that up as a very well suited, actually, other example of the merging of the 2 religions at this time, when there was this religious changeover. It wasn't just one religion stopped and everyone went, okay, we're Christian now. There was a sort of gradual change where the 2 overlapped quite a bit and shared many similarities for a bit before the other one prevailed. So could this stone be a similar thing? On one side, we've got very clearly Pictish imagery, but then again, there's all this underlying Christian symbolism that can also be applied to it. But also don't forget, the opposite side possibly had a massive Christian cross engraved on it, carved onto it. So probably, yeah, not only have you got artistic symbols and things that have significance in both religious circles, but then you have a big massive cross on the back, and that's kind of, you can't really argue that one, can you? The Triskelies were adopted by Christianity, the vines, so it's very much giving, why not both, you know? It's very much celebrating Pictish traditions and culture, whilst also embracing the new upcoming religion. New Christianity was sort of on the up and up, really. So hopefully today I have proven to you that King Constantine's throne from the Last Kingdom and Seven Kings Must Die is not a throne, but a big stone. What is it with Scottish kings and their wee fancy stones that they like to sit on, eh? It was also nowhere near Stirling at any point in its existence. As far as the real life King Constantine as well, because he was also a real guy, by the way. If you'd like a wee video on him, I can do one as well. The stone was carved about 100 years before the real King Constantine II was born. So at a push, he might have seen it on his travels when he was doing his kingly duties around Scotland and all that. An elite monument, yes, it absolutely was. But I doubt that it was anything royal. And I really doubt that it was anything to do with him specifically. The side that's visible on the telly was the side that was face down in the dirt, the best preserved side. I am absolutely astounded at the detail in this reconstruction that they've made on purpose for a chair that sits in the background that I don't think we ever see King Constantine actually sit in. But in season 5 and also in Seven Kings Must Die, the chair is just in the background, looking cool. And it has such a small, fleeting time on the screen. But I saw it. I saw it. I clocked you. Cheeky little set designers, try to get that one under my nose. I saw it. And I love you for it. Absolutely adore you for it. Whoever made that decision is a genius. They didn't have to go all out like that and make that stone into his throne. They didn't have to. Even more than that, they never draw attention to it. They never call your eye to it. It's just there. And I love that. Just including it for no reason. Is it at all accurate? Absolutely not, as we've just seen. But it's such a clever use of real archaeology in a fictional teleprogram that, you know, it's kind of, there's bits of real history in there, you know what I mean? But it's such a clever use of real archaeology in fictional telly in a sort of harmless way. It's a bit of fun, and I really appreciate it because no one else has noticed, so it was clearly just for me. If you did pick up on this, please let me know, because you haven't said anything about it on the internet that I can find, so I found it first. Sorry. The real stone is in the National Museum of Scotland. If you fancy going to see it for yourself, I highly recommend that you do. If you're in the area or if you're on holiday or something, go and see it. It's nice. Hey besties, it's me. I've been a wee silly Billy. My camera died halfway through my closing statements. Closing statements, who am I? A lawyer? Just to pick up where I left off, watch The Last Kingdom, by the way, and Seven Kings Must Die. Goes without saying that I'm absolutely obsessed. Obviously. I mean, hey, look at me. Come on now. And subscribe to me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Still trying to push for 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year 2023. If you're watching this after that, I really hope I've hit that, otherwise that's dead embarrassing, isn't it? Like this video if you genuinely enjoyed yourself, if you maybe had a wee chuckle, maybe you learned something new. I don't know. I'm not you. Tell me all about it in the comments. You can ring the bell as well if you fancy notifications, but you don't have to. As long as you hit subscribe, that's all I care about. Get that number up, baby. My bibliography is in the description box below, as well as my further reading, although most of this information I've gathered from actually going and looking at the stone and just looking at it and going, oh, wow. And from watching the telly. Gorgeous. We love that when research, when the stars align and our research involves just watching stuff. And also let me know in the comments how you feel about archaeology being used in this way. Do you think it's harmless and actually sort of encouraging to sort of get people engaged and involved? Or do you think this is horrible and should never be done and no archaeology should ever be portrayed in a way that it is not? There's certain fors and against. I could do a whole video about using archaeology in certain ways in certain media. I could talk for Scotland about that. But I'm not going to right now because it's already been over 20 minutes and you're probably desperate to leave my page. So tatty bye. Love you all. Let me know your opinions and thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and I'll see you next Tuesday. although this is going up on Wednesday.